Hello chess friends and welcome to your out of chess channel and welcome to an amazing tournament that started today. Welcome to the Aimchess Rapid in 2022. So this tournament is part of the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour, and you probably know the grip about this kind of events. We have 16 players that will battle it out in 15 rounds of rapid chess, and then of course the 8 best players are moving up to the knockout stage, are moving up to the quarter-final stage, and then we'll see of course the semifinals and then the beautiful super finals in this very nice chess event. So we're starting now this beautiful tournament with an aggressive jobava-London between Shakh and Mamedyarov and Anish Giri. In my opinion, this was the game of the day. I had really a tough time to decide which game I'll show, but in my opinion, this is the one. This is the best game of the day. One, because here you see and you witness really wild tactical ideas, immortal tactical shots, really great theoretical improvements, really beautiful attacking ideas. Be prepared, put your seatbelts on. This was really a double-edged jobava-London system. So let's see the game. Shakh and Mamedyarov opened here with the move d4. Anish Giri's response was knight to f6, and now comes already sort of a tricky move, knight to c3. Usually you go c4, going into Indian ideas, and now maybe you can also try knight to f3 as your second move. But after move knight to c3, what white is preparing of course is the move e4, so that's why black needs to counterplay now with the move d5 and have a further control of the e4 square. So now comes the jobava-London move, the move bishop to f4. So we have reached now the jobava-London system, and the idea is clear about I think this opening. First of all, there is a tactical threat with the knight to b5, knight to c7, and there is also a positional idea about this opening where we're trying to get further control of the e5 square. So basically every move that we'll play now, in the beginning at least, is a control of the e5 square, and now in the near future we can also try maybe bishop to, e3, bishop to d3, and maybe in the near future you can also launch a flank attack here on the king side. Is also an aggressive idea, like also in the common London you're playing maybe e3, queen to d2. So many flexible ideas you have here. But you see now after this move e6 that Anish Giri played here, we have already this tactical approach by Shakh and Mamedyarov. He tries knight to b5 and attacks now the pawn on c7. So you have to play now knight to a6. That's I think the downside about black's position. Your knight is on the edge of the board, but at least you have protected for a while your pawn on c7, and will eventually here play c6 and kick away this knight from this very annoying square b5. So in the continuation, normal development by Mamedyarov, e3, bishop to e7, and now a beautiful move here by Shakh and Mamedyarov. As I said, from this point on the game is already tactical. h4 immediately, launching a flank attack without even counting, without even securing the king. Really wild idea by Shakh and Mamedyarov. We have here kingside counting by Anish Giri, and now knight to f3 as promised, the further control of the e5 square. So we have now c6. So Anish Giri doesn't want to tolerate this knight further. We have here knight to c3, and now basically you have two choices. You can play this line that Anish Giri played, and it's probably the best line. It's I think the most aggressive approach by black. Queen to b6, Anish Giri played here, attacking simply the b2 weakness. But you could also try bishop to b4, maybe a more positional idea. You're trying to pin the knight, and then you're trying also some ideas of knight to e4. But be careful when you're playing the game from black's perspective, because you can get actually also counterpinned here with bishop to g5. Okay, let's see possible continuation. Maybe you play h6, but look at this now, bishop to f6, queen to f6, and with g4 things are really messy here for black already. I would not love to play now this game from black's perspective, because look at this, g4 is coming, g5 will come eventually. You cannot play even e5 because, as we said, you have still a great protection of this square. So I'm not seeing good ways how really black should defend this position. We can even I think try bishop to a6, undermining also this knight, have a further control of the c5 square. So in my opinion, black needs to be careful when you play this kind of ideas with bishop to b4, because you're also vulnerable here around the square f6. So that's why, as I said, queen to b6 was played by Anish Giri. Much more aggressive approach, a really beautiful tactical approach. He's trying now to simply grab the pawn on b2. But a3 was played by Mamedyarov, and you should be familiar with this tactical idea. When you get challenged around the square b2, a3 is a beautiful counterplay, because of course queen takes b2 is not working. You simply trap the queen with knight to a4. You cannot use any of the squares in order to escape. Also, the b6 square is taken, the b5 square is taken by the bishop, so it's game over here for black. Of course, Anish Giri didn't fall for this. He played now c5, which is a common idea. There is this rule in chess with chess: when you get attacked on the flanks, like Shakh and Mamedyarov did here, you should counterplay in the center of the board. So it's a well-known theorem in chess, so you should be really familiar with this, because the clear idea about this approach is, of course, that white cannot control every side of the board. White cannot control the king side, queen side, and also the center of the board. So white's position needs to be cracked somewhere, so that's why this this move makes sense here. Anish Giri is trying, of course, to make further progress here in the center of the board. So now Shakh and Mamedyarov plays a risky idea: bishop to a6. He's saying, okay, I will take out the knight, but at least I'm not challenged further in the center of the board. We have here queen to a6. You can also play b takes a6, but the downside is, of course, that the bishop is paralyzed a little bit by its own pawns. You can maybe try in the near future a5, bishop to a6, but meanwhile, I think white is doing something. White is trying h5, h6, open the position here against black's king on the king side. So that's why queen to a6. And you see now also the downside already for white is that you cannot secure anymore the king by castling on the king side, so the king is also a little bit stuck in the center. But let's see now what Shakh and Mamedyarov has prepared here, because he gave up his powerful bishop for a knight. Let's see now what was his idea. So he played h5. He's trying to continue the pressure with the move h6, opening simply the king further. And now, in my opinion, Anish Giri plays maybe his first tiny little inaccuracy. He plays h6. Many times this idea could be working. You're stopping, of course, your opponent's progress, but there was maybe a much more aggressive approach with knight to e4. As we said, when you get attacked on the flanks, you should counterattack in the center of the board. I think Anish Giri should have continued with this plan, knight to e4, simply playing further on in the center somehow, or trying really to open the center, because look at this, after knight to e4, d takes e4, the game is quite dynamic already in the center. You have to step back, knight to d2, and now the position is dynamic. As I said, the king is stuck here in the center. We can maybe use the d file, we can maybe try f6, e5, opening the position, getting somehow the light square bishop into the game. I'm not telling now what is the best move, but in my opinion, it seems so that black could have really at least some kind of an aggressive approach against the king in the center in this scenario. But h6 is simply too passive, but okay, nothing wrong. You'll not lose the game because you play h6. But as I said, maybe it was simply time for Anish Giri to simplify the game, to move knight to e4. But okay, here Shakh Mamedyarov continues his brutal attack. He's continuing with the move g4. He's trying now to decoy here Anish Giri to the g file. He's trying to get the knight on g4 and play a rook to g1, and that's exactly what happened. But look at this, the cool part about Shakh Mamedyarov attack is that you cannot even play this idea knight to h7. Knight to h7 would be risky for black to play. Okay, you have a further control of the g5. You're not allowing g5 progress here by white, but actually after d takes c5, look at this, when the bishop takes with the here on c5, then the bishop is suddenly deflected from the defense of the g5 square, so the bishop cannot control both of these squares, and now you just push pawn further g5, and you're opening the position in front of black's king. The position is exploding now on the king side, and this should be devastating now here for black. So this is not working. So that's why, okay, knight to g4 was played by Anish Giri. He's saying, okay, show me what you got, show me what you got on the g file. That's exactly what happened. Shakh Mamedyarov played rook to g1. We have now f5 by Anish Giri, and now knight to e5. Here Shakh Mamedyarov is desperately really trying to open the g file and try also maybe some ideas of bishop to h6, because when the g file is open, the main tactical threat is bishop to h6, and then the further progress around the square g7. So we have now c takes d4. As we said, Anish Giri is continuing to pressure the center. If you try maybe something like knight to e5, it could be risky, because after bishop to e5, bishop to f6, bishop to f6, I've analyzed this line. If it would have been possible maybe for black to defend this position like this, rook to f6, but now again d takes c5 will happen. So as I said, the bishop cannot control both of these diagonals. Now we just grab a pawn. Look at this, you play maybe something like king to h7, you're getting out of the g file mess, and now with queen to d4, white is controlling every dark square on the board. We can even try f4 in the near future, maybe never allow this pawn to be advanced. And look at this now, the bishop in this scenario would be paralyzed by its own pawn structure. It's simply really a bad bishop here. It's almost like a pawn here, so that's why you should not do it. Meanwhile, white has a flexible game. White can always reroute the knight, maybe knight to e2, knight to f4, knight to g6. So in these types of structures, the knight will always find a way into the game. On the other hand, the bishop, the light square bishop, is simply a useless piece. So really you should always evaluate the strength of your pieces. In my opinion, here the knight should be much better. So as I said, after move knight to e5, we have seen now this idea, knight to e5, bishop to e5, bishop to f6, is not working as a defensive approach. So after move knight to e5, as we said, Anish Giri simply took c takes d4, e takes d4, and now again he kind of battled for the e5 square, but he should have simply continued with queen to b6. This is now really tricky, and it's really hard to find everything what's going on now on the board, because after knight to g4 that maybe Shakh and Mamedyarov could have played. Let's see now the defensive idea. Look at this, f takes g4, after queen to g4, it seems so there's no good defense against bishop to h6 and queen takes g7, but now with queen to d4, actually black could have defended this position. That's why the move queen to b6 was the accurate defensive move here for Shakh and Mamedyarov, but unfortunately for him, he played now bishop to f6. So instead of queen to b6, he played bishop to f6, and I think 95% of every player would play bishop to f6. It makes really sense to defend further your center of the board, but as I said, queen to b6 was the correct move. Now Shakh and Mamedyarov plays an immortal, really brutal, sharp tactical shot. He plays now rook takes g4, and from this point on, it's a one-way ticket. Many of us would not see this tactic. Many of us would not play the game like Mamedyarov did. He really immortal move he played now after f takes g4, queen to g4, and notice now this bishop is out of game. This is not a good piece, and the downside is that you cannot include the piece into the game because you can never advance the pawn on e5. When the bishop is out of game, then of course also your rook is out of game. So basically you're playing without two pieces, and meanwhile white is doing something. You can play, of course, queenside castling. You can play rook to g1. You can include the queen here. The weak square in g6 here is present. You can also try bishop to h6. So many tactical opportunities from this point on. White should be winning in this position. So in the continuation, we have here now b5 by Anish Giri. Now we have bishop to h6. Even if you play something like b4 here, this wasn't played in the game, we can still take bishop to g7, and now with h6 you're continuing the pressure. After bishop to h6 that Shakh and Mamedyarov played here, queen to b7 was played by Anish Giri. He's trying now to somehow protect his 7th rank. Now we have queenside castling by Shakh and Mamedyarov, and now after move a5, here Anish Giri desperately wanted to also find ideas how to counterplay here on the queen side, but now beautiful tactical shot, knight takes b5 by Shakh and Mamedyarov, deflecting the queen simply from the action. Here, even if you try, let's see possible continuations in the game. Giri took with queen takes b5, but let's see also maybe this line, bishop to e5. You can play, of course, nothing wrong with this one. D takes e5, and now of course look at this, there is still this tension on the g file. We can include the rook into the game. This square is weak here, the d6 square, so in my opinion there's not a good way anymore for black to defend this position. So after move knight to b5, here Anish Giri took, the queen takes b5, but now beautiful, stunning again tactic, bishop to g7. Look how Shakh is playing the game, really wild stuff. Bishop to g7, now h6. You can of course cover with this rook because the knight has taken over here on f7, so you have to include this other rook into the defense. But now a beautiful move here by Shakh and Mamedyarov. He plays h7, and there is simply no defense anymore against this monstrous attack. Let's see possible continuations. Here Anish Giri took the pawn on f2, but let's see, for instance, if you play here rook to f7, it could be an idea. Maybe you're giving up back material, but just in order to slow down white's attack. Now we play h takes g7. Okay, you play rook to g7, but now with queen to h4, we are threatening checkmate here on h8. So that's why you have to get step back here. We can play queen to f6. Now you cover maybe with this other rook, but now look at this. This rook is coming into the game. You play this one, rook to g8, but now with queen to f7, it's a beautiful checkmate. So let's go back. As we said, after move rook to h1, h1, what you could play is here rook to b7. You could maybe try counterplay against the weak square on b2, but actually the beautiful move rook to h1 was a really devastating preparation, because h7 would be now the threat. Now you have to move the king to h8, and then you get with knight to g6 a beautiful stunning checkmate. So really wild stuff. So after move h6 and rook to h1, here there's not so much that can be done in the game. As we said, Anish Giri played rook takes f2, but now h7 anyway. You cannot move, of course, your king, as we said, to h8. You get simply knight to g6, so that's why you have to play king to f8. And maybe you can pause the video and try to see a new best continuation here for white. It's really wild how Shakh played the game here. Okay, here Shakh Mamedyarov plays a beautiful queen sacrifice. Queen takes g7. Here, if you take, of course, with the king, then we have a promotion. It's a checkmate in one here with this move h8. So you have to take out with a rook, like Anish Giri did here. But now with queen to h8, there's nothing that can be done. You can maybe try to cover here, like Anish Giri did with the rook to g8. But now knight to g6 is going to happen, and now you have basically two choices. You can step back, or you can play here maybe the move king to f7, but king to f7 leads actually into a forced checkmate sequence. Look at this, you play this one, rook to h7. Now you have to play king to g6. Now we take out this rook, and now we just push the king towards the center. Now you have to play something like king to e3. We play another check. You have to take out the pawn. Queen takes f2. Now you have to play this one, rook to f4. You can maybe cover, but now with queen to d4, this would be actually the forced checkmate sequence here by white. So this is not working. So let's go back. After move knight to g6, we have seen king to f7 is not working. So that's why here king to e8 was played by Anish Giri. But now with the queen to g8, we have king to d7. And now after knight to e5, the king gets attacked, king to d6. And after move knight to d3, in this position here, Anish Giri resigned. So he had enough of it. Although you can also probably take here the bishop immediately. You have still this protection of the c2. Even if black sacrifice something, this queen is coming into the game, so there's no defense anymore against this devastating attack by white. So after move, as I said, knight to d3, in this position Anish Giri resigned. So really stunning game by Shakh Mamedyarov. Immortal tactics. He first sacrificed the exchange, then also sacrificed his bishop, then also the queen afterwards, just in order to make progress with his pass around the h file. Really a wild game, in my opinion. As I said, simply the game of the day, maybe even the game of the week for sure. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas of the jobava-London system for sure. If you want to see more beautiful chess games that we have analyzed before, check out my commented chess game series. Here's the link of our whole playlist, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and what to say, chess is the best, of course.